Hello and welcome to the next session. And I'd like to introduce an old friend, Virginia Rodés from Uruguay. And she's going to talk about emergency, openness and agency, the adoption of open educational resources and repositories in overcoming the educational crisis during the COVID pandemic. Over to you, Virginia.
Thank you very much. It's really nice to see you again. Nice memories from the last time we saw each other in Galway. Well, very happy to be here also in the year 21 and to share the open joy. Today I was talking about the GoGN Philo that I'm developing regarding the fellowships that GoGN is. It was the first edition of the GoGN Philo, and I'm going to talk about the preliminary results of the study. Let's start. This Philo is aimed at investigating the way teachers adopted OER and also repositories in Uruguay during the pandemic emergency lockdown in Uruguay on 2020 during the last year. Open educational resources have had a relevant role in overcoming the educational crisis, and the previous findings of this study, that was my PhD thesis, allowed us to identify various trends to be definite in the context of the COVID-19 emergency, and accelerated the adoption of OER by K-12 teachers in Uruguay. This fellowship was aimed to investigate the agency of teachers of public primary schools in their practices of creating, reuse, and sharing resources. A study made possible by this GoGN Research Fellowship is being carried out, focusing on how the processes were developed within the situation of the extreme vulnerability of the educational communities. A qualitative methodology was implemented based on the previous critical conceptual model of the adoption of OER that I made in my PhD thesis. That is a critical and Latin American conceptual model. And individual interviews with high school principals and group interviews with teachers. I'm going to show the instruments I applied in the interviews were focused on integration into practice, how much were incorporated in the teaching plans, the integration into teaching practices, and how do teachers integrate into teaching, if teachers differentiate between OER and other types of contents, and what are the common creation and reusing practices in these times. Next, the other focus is on perceptions and attitudes, and mostly related to if perspective on open education have changed, and lessons learned, and which changes do we need to improve the access on educational continuity, and the recommendations that teacher made. And also the personal impacts, mostly regarding the how did they feel in throughout the process, and how has it impacted in a personal family level. And the theoretical sample was based in 3 case studies: one school in Montevideo, in the capital of Uruguay, and a second one, school in a metropolitan area, is near the capital, and the third one is a school in a province located in the north of the country. And the subjects were 3 school principals of each school, and 7 teachers related to the case studies. Well, I'm going to share with you some results of the analysis that involved 10 hours of interviews, 280 calls, and 1,039 quotations. And these are the preliminary results. Sorry if you heard, this is the gas that is coming to is the sound scenario of Montevideo. Perhaps you are hearing some noise. Well, the first result is integration into practice. Regarding integration into practice is ICT appropriation, mostly face-to-face. The tension between face-to-face and virtuality is the most important aspect that teachers include in their discourse in every time they can. They were really, but virtuality was really a driver to the adoption of ICT. And they make more focus on what happens before and what happens after. Need was another driver. They talk about time and fear as problems to develop their practices. Regarding open education, collaboration is the most cited item regarding open education practices. They talk about training, coordination, and communication, mostly with students, between teachers and parents. Creation, use, and open of digital resources. I want to highlight that creation was the most important practice that they talk about, and also reusing and share. But they only mention OER less than creation, reuse, and share. So this happens because they didn't differentiate between OER and other educational resources, and they didn't realize that what they do is doing OER. Most of the work is done in teams. Policies are important, also quality and also incentives. Regarding OER formats, we found mostly videos, digital books, learning paths, and virtual classroom and games, and with less representations or presentation, photographies, interactive images, and posters. Regarding repositories, it's very important because the most used repositories were the institutional ones. There are the Plan Ceibal portal and the library. Other sites are also used, and we saw that there are not many information about if they can use the resources that are in the other sites. And also Uruguay Educa, that is a platform of the Ministry of Education. Practices were mostly storage and search, not sharing in the repositories, because sharing is happen in other spaces that I'm going to talk about later. Training and promotion and awareness were a focus of their discourses, and also copyright and policies and incentives, and they talked about adoption strategies and organization and infrastructures. Regarding educational technology, CREA, that is the scholarship platform that is also by Plan Ceibal, is provided by Plan Ceibal to the private and public schools in Uruguay. Is the most cited. It was a huge amount of use of this platform during the COVID-19, and currently is already using. PAM, that is in Matific, there are platforms regarding mathematics, and Gurifamilia, that is a platform for connection with families. Conference is a big Bluebathon technology that is provided to make online classes that is institutionally provided by Plan Ceibal, and also Zoom and less Google Meet and WhatsApp and email. There are many apps that they mentioned, that Genially, Kahoot, Learning. So they use many apps that are provided by free, but not really open. But they use the apps that are in the internet, also Google Drive. But they talked about printed resources for students that are not that not have a good internet connection. Also regarding integration into practice, continuity of learning is the most important thing for teachers. And they talk about the students' digital practices, but the most important thing for teachers was students' rotation. And in this area, access to technology was the most important thing, because they in the beginning of the pandemic were many problems because in the students' homes there were no availability of access to internet. Not always regarding this. For example, laptops, because Plan Ceibal provide one laptop per child, but mostly regarding access to internet. But also participation, meeting peers, keep contact, were very important things for teachers. Also accessibility and motivation. Regarding curriculum change, in the didactic contents, teaching concepts and practices have changed. There were a lot of reflective practices going on, and education and innovation. In the organizational context, the organization of work and the environment of the center were very important, and also the internal relationships and the external context. They talked about school and society relationship and the co-determining influence, like the policies of the educational system and also the sanitary policies. Regarding the other category, that are perceptions and attitudes, I want to share with you some lessons learned that I think are very interesting, because they bring the teachers' voices. Teachers' role is fundamental in the classroom. I do not know if authorities became aware of the amount of resources created by teachers in these 3 months, an infinite world of possibilities. It has a lot to do with our biographies and trajectories as well. At least the fear has been lost. You had to learn, and was someone who supported another. Returning to resources, to be able to work, to analyze didactically, to be able to reuse them, to redesign them according to the purpose, changing the pedagogical intention, to be able to take advantage of them, to find meaning from that place and appropriate it. I think there are a lot of lessons learned, but I choose this because they are very, very powerful. And regarding representations, I took this one that are in vivo codes, but now the technology looked for its place by itself. Now we are prepared for 2021. It was a shared learning. It was a community. Quite an experience. It was to continue or leave teaching. They are very, very powerful. And personal impacts regarding the personal identity and teaching professional identity. I want to highlight the emotional impact, and less the quarantine and uncertainty, tiredness, recognition, need to recognition, and personal growth. in relation to teaching professional identity, teacher subject, mostly relation with technology was a topic, agency, meaning of teaching, and professional satisfaction. And regarding teaching career, professional development was very important, and also teachers' trajectory. So preliminary findings. There is evidence of new practices of use of OER currently available in national repositories. There are reusing practices, mostly that involve few adaptations, but it's mostly connected with inspiration-based reuse. Sharing practices are observed between peers and on a human scale in the educational institution or between nearby institutions. They constructed, they build relationships between each other, and they managed to share in creative ways, not only by using repositories. Lack of knowledge of the difference between OER and other educational resources, and creation practices in teacher teams. Also, leadership role of the school principal is really significant, and there is a relevance of the persistence of a professional community in which in-service training is shared. The role of teachers already trained in educational technology to promote and lead the work of other teachers in the school, but also a high instability of this transformation is observed in the evaluation, in the evolution towards the return to face-to-face education. So I think it's very important, just to finish, to highlight the importance of the requirement to establish mechanisms to promote the prioritization of creation, adaptation, and sharing of OER, give visibility to the value of these practices, and also give sustainability to the learning generated by the pandemic. So this is these are the preliminary findings. I'm not sure if I haven't done well in time. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm muted at the moment. Well, I think I'm unmuted now. We've got a few moments for questions. You can see one of the questions there, which is how the project's moving beyond 2021, for example. So what next is the question, Virginia? What are you doing next with this project?
Well, I'm going to do a research paper and also to bring back to authorities and also to the participants of the study these findings, and so as to lead. I'm nowadays currently I'm UNESCO chair in open education in Uruguay, so I think it could be an activity that the UNESCO chair can lead to make authorities know about what has been happening in schools and what teachers learn about that, and how can we make a sustainable action to this learning.
Okay, and I'm going to pick up another question from the chain of questions. There's a particular question, and it chimes with me. I've got school-age children as well, and they were sent home, and we were okay because we had devices at home for them. How did that impact? You know, so that were learners sent home from school in Venezuela? Did they have to study at home? Was there a digital divide?
Yes, it was a digital divide. Uruguay had made a lot of efforts during the last decades so as to make this digital divide lower, but there are structural social and economical divide and cultural divide that impact in the appropriation of digital technologies, and also the way that students could manage during the with their learning and their student practices during the pandemic. When families can be with a student and guide him or her during the connection and during the online activities and everything that is involved in learning, students can go on. But there were many students that have been left.
Yeah.
So yes, but what I saw in my study was that teachers made terrible efforts and a huge amount of efforts to connect with these students. With those students, they were looking for them in their houses, in places. Talking with the neighbors to contact with them, and I think the effort that the teachers made in this context to make that no one is left behind is really huge.
Listen, I've been tweeting away in the background and pushing your message out. I think the knowledge of primary teachers in Scotland about OER probably is less than the knowledge you're reflecting that primary teachers in Uruguay have. So I quite deliberately tweeted that out to annoy some of my Scottish educational policymaker friends. So a really useful piece of work. Thank you for a lovely presentation. I'll see you shortly in the green room where we go after this session. And I just like to thank you very much, and I'm sure other people will be applauding on the YouTube stream. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Nom nom nom.